What if the person you think is missing you is not missing your love at all, but missing the control they once had over your mind, your emotions, and your decisions? The moment you stop chasing their approval, stop reacting to their manipulation, and start rebuilding your confidence, something changes. They no longer recognize the person they could once influence, and that is when your silence becomes louder than your words, your confidence becomes stronger than their criticism, and their absence stops feeling like a loss, it starts feeling like freedom. Because the greatest victory is not making them regret losing you. It is building a life so powerful, purposeful, and peaceful that you no longer care whether they ever come back. Number, they don't miss you. They miss the control they had over you. There comes a moment in life when you must stop confusing someone's attachment to you with genuine love. Not everyone who says they miss you is missing your presence. Sometimes what they miss is the influence they once had over your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and your sense of worth. They do not miss the person you are becoming. They miss the version of you that could be easily persuaded, easily disappointed, and easily pulled back into the same cycle. When you begin to understand this, something powerful happens inside you. You stop asking why they are suddenly reaching out. You stop wondering whether their attention means they have changed. You begin asking a more important question. What exactly are they trying to regain? Your greatest victory is not proving that you can live without them. Your greatest victory is discovering that you never needed their permission to live according to your own purpose. The moment you stop depending upon another person for validation, you begin reclaiming the authority that was always yours. A person who once controlled your emotions may expect you to react when they withdraw affection, create confusion, or suddenly return with familiar promises. But when you become disciplined in your thinking, their tactics lose their power. You no longer respond to every message. You no longer explain yourself endlessly. You no longer sacrifice your peace just to keep someone else comfortable. This is where your transformation begins. Your mind is your most valuable possession. Guard it carefully. Do not allow another person to occupy it rent-free with fear, resentment, doubt, or the endless desire to be understood. You cannot build a powerful future while constantly looking backward for approval from someone who benefited from your insecurity. Perhaps they expected you to remain emotionally available forever. Perhaps they believed you would always return whenever they pulled away. But life has a remarkable way of revealing your strength when you finally decide to stand upon your own principles. Let them wonder why you changed. Let them question why you no longer react. Let them discover that the person they once influenced has become a person guided by purpose. You do not need revenge. You do not need to make them jealous. You do not need to convince them that you are valuable. Your life itself can become the evidence. Build your character. Strengthen your mind. Develop your purpose. Direct your energy toward achievement rather than explanation. Every hour you spend becoming stronger is an hour you are refusing to surrender to someone else's control. Remember this. When someone misses the power they had over you, their longing is not necessarily a sign that you should return. Sometimes it is simply proof that you have finally become difficult to manipulate, and that is not your loss. That is your freedom. Number. The moment you stop chasing their approval, their power begins to fade. There is a great transformation that takes place when you finally stop measuring your worth through another person's approval. For a long time, you may have believed that peace would come when they understood you, accepted you, praised you, or finally recognized your value. But the truth is that your freedom begins when you realize that your worth was never theirs to give and never theirs to take away. The moment you stop chasing approval, you reclaim something far greater than their acceptance. You reclaim your mind, A person can influence you only to the degree that you allow their opinion to become more important than your own principles. If their silence determines your mood, their criticism determines your confidence, or their attention determines your happiness, then you have unknowingly handed them authority over your emotional life. But once you begin thinking independently, that authority begins to disappear. This does not mean becoming cold, bitter, or indifferent to everyone around you. It means becoming secure enough to respect yourself even when someone else refuses to respect you. It means learning that rejection does not make you worthless and criticism does not make you incapable. You must develop the habit of asking yourself what you truly believe, what you truly want, and what kind of person you are determined to become. These questions shift your attention away from pleasing others and toward building yourself. When you stop chasing approval, you stop performing. You no longer change your personality simply to keep someone interested. You no longer abandon your principles to avoid conflict. You no longer explain every decision because you are afraid someone might misunderstand you. You become willing to let people misunderstand you while you remain faithful to your purpose. That is strength. Your life becomes more powerful when your decisions are guided by definite purpose rather than emotional pressure. Every great achievement begins with a person who decides where they are going and refuses to surrender that direction simply because someone else disapproves. Understand that approval can become a subtle form of dependency. If you constantly seek reassurance, you may begin living according to someone else's expectations instead of your own highest vision. But when you develop self-respect, discipline, and a clear purpose, you no longer need constant confirmation that you are enough. And that knowledge changes everything. The person who once gained influence through your uncertainty may become confused when you no longer react the same way. Your silence is different. Your boundaries are different. Your priorities are different. Most importantly, your relationship with yourself is different. Do not waste your energy trying to convince someone of your value. Invest that energy into becoming valuable to yourself through discipline, learning, achievement, integrity, and purposeful action. Let your results speak. Let your character speak. Let the life you build speak. One day you will look back and realize that the approval you spent so much time chasing was never the treasure you thought it was. The real treasure was the confidence you developed when you stopped asking another person to tell you who you were. When you stopped chasing their approval, their power fades. And when their power fades, your own begins to rise. Number. Your silence becomes powerful when they can no longer manipulate your emotions. There comes a time when silence becomes more powerful than every explanation you could ever give. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have finally learned that not every person deserves access to your emotional energy. When someone has learned how to provoke your anger, awaken your insecurity, or pull you into endless arguments, your reactions can become the very source of their influence. But when you master your emotions, that influence begins to disappear. Your silence is not weakness, it is discipline. The person who once knew exactly how to make you react may become confused when you stop responding in the old way. They may criticize you, provoke you, withdraw attention, or attempt to create confusion. Yet you remain calm. You observe without surrendering your peace. You listen without allowing every word to enter your mind and take control of your emotions. This is the beginning of self-mastery. A powerful life requires the ability to govern your own mind. You cannot control every person who enters your life, but you can control what you permit their behavior to create within you. You cannot prevent someone from speaking, but you can decide whether their words will become the foundation of your emotional state. When you stop reacting automatically, you create space between what happens and what you choose to do about it. In that space lives your freedom. Think about how much energy is lost when you constantly defend yourself. You explain your intentions. You justify your decisions. You answer every accusation. You attempt to prove that you are not the person someone claims you are. But eventually you discover something important. Your character does not require a courtroom. You do not need to defend your worth to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Silence allows you to redirect your energy towards something far more valuable. Instead of spending your mental strength trying to win an emotional battle, you can use that strength to build your future. You can work on your goals, strengthen your character, improve your abilities, and create the life you once postponed while trying to satisfy someone else. This does not mean remaining silent when communication is necessary. Healthy boundaries sometimes require clear and direct words, but there is a difference between communicating with purpose and reacting from emotional pressure. Purpose speaks once and stands firm. Fear keeps explaining. Choose purpose. When your emotions are no longer easily manipulated, you become difficult to control. Your peace is no longer dependent upon whether someone praises you or criticizes you. Their approval may feel pleasant, but it is no longer necessary. Their rejection may hurt, but it no longer determines your direction. That is emotional freedom. Let your silence be the evidence of your growth. Let it demonstrate that you no longer need to participate in every conflict placed before you. Let it prove that your attention has become too valuable to waste on meaningless battles. Your greatest victory is not making someone regret losing access to you. Your greatest victory is reaching a place where their attempts to disturb you no longer determine the quality of your day. Protect your mind. Guard your peace. Direct your energy toward your purpose, because when they can no longer manipulate your emotions, they can no longer control the direction of your life. And that is when your silence becomes power. Number. When you reclaim your confidence, they realize they can no longer define you. There is a moment in every person's life when they must decide whether they will continue accepting the identity that others have placed upon them or rise and define themselves through their own purpose. If someone has spent years criticizing you, doubting you, comparing you, or making you question your abilities, their voice can become so familiar that you begin mistaking it for your own. But the moment you recognize that distinction, your transformation begins. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is the quiet decision to believe that you are capable of becoming more than your past has demonstrated. When you reclaim your confidence, you stop allowing another person's opinion to become the measurement of your potential. You begin to understand that someone else's judgment is only an opinion, not a prophecy. Their criticism cannot determine your future unless you accept it as truth. This is why confidence is so powerful. A person who depends upon outside approval can be easily directed by praise and punishment. Give them approval and they move closer. Withdraw it and they begin questioning themselves. But a person who has developed inner confidence is guided by principles rather than emotional rewards. They know where they are going. They know what they are building, and they refuse to abandon their direction simply because someone else disapproves. Perhaps someone once convinced you that you were not strong enough. Perhaps they made you believe that you could not succeed without them. Perhaps they repeatedly reminded you of your mistakes until you forgot how many times you had overcome difficulties. But your past does not have the authority to imprison your future. You can learn. You can grow. You can rebuild. You can become disciplined enough to transform the qualities you once considered weaknesses into sources of strength. The greatest part of reclaiming confidence is that you do not need to announce your transformation. You do not need to tell everyone that you are stronger now. You simply begin living differently. You make decisions without asking for permission. You pursue goals without waiting for applause. You establish boundaries without feeling guilty. You walk away from environments that repeatedly diminish your sense of worth. And you stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. That is when they realize they can no longer define you. Your confidence becomes visible through your actions. It appears in the way you carry yourself, the standards you maintain, and the choices you make when nobody is watching. It is built through small promises kept to yourself every day. Wake up and work toward your purpose. Learn something that strengthens your mind. Complete what you said you would complete. Refuse to return to habits that weakened you. Every disciplined action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Do not seek revenge against those who underestimated you. Build a life that makes their opinion irrelevant. Your greatest response is growth. Your greatest answer is achievement. Your greatest freedom is becoming so secure in your own identity that another person's judgment no longer has the power to rewrite it. You are not the labels they placed upon you. You are not the mistakes you made. You are not the version of yourself they preferred because that version was easier to control. You are the architect of what comes next. Reclaim your confidence, strengthen your purpose, and move forward with determination. Because once you know who you are and where you are going, no one else can define you. Number. Build a life so strong that their absence feels like freedom, not loss. There comes a time when you must stop measuring your life by who stayed and who left. The departure of another person may feel like the end of something valuable, but sometimes it is the beginning of something greater. When you build your life around purpose, discipline, self-respect, and meaningful ambition, the absence of someone who once occupied your mind can become the space where your greatest growth begins. Do not misunderstand this transformation. Freedom does not mean that you never cared. It means that you have learned not to abandon yourself because someone else chose to leave. For too long, you may have invested your greatest energy into maintaining a connection that required you to constantly prove your worth. You may have sacrificed your peace to avoid rejection. You may have ignored your own goals while trying to preserve someone else's attention. But eventually, every person must face a powerful question. What could I accomplish if I stopped spending my life trying to keep someone who was never committed to my growth? That question can change your direction. Your life becomes stronger when you give your attention to definite purpose. Set goals that excite your mind. Develop abilities that increase your confidence. Build habits that strengthen your character. Surround yourself with people who encourage growth rather than dependency.